Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are heading into territory that feels a little bit like the Matrix, honestly.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, we're looking at the invisible strings that sort of pull us through our daily lives, shaping what we buy, what we eat, even how we spend our free time.
It is a fascinating topic. We're digging into the decisions we make, or perhaps more accurately, the decisions we think we're making.
Exactly.
Because as it turns out, our free will might have a few more, let's say, guardrails than we realize.
That's a great way to put it. And to kick this off, I want to paint a picture that I guarantee everyone listening has experienced.
Okay.
It's the universal quick run to the store. Let's say you need milk. Just one single carton of milk. You walk in, you're determined, you have a mental list, you're going to be in and out, 2 minutes tops.
That is always the plan. Tactical extraction, get in, get the goods, get out.
Right. But then, 20 minutes later, you find yourself at the checkout. And somehow, you didn't just get the milk. You managed to walk away with a basket full of, artisanal crackers, a new brand of tropical-scented laundry detergent you definitely didn't need.
And maybe a celebrity gossip magazine you'll never actually read.
Yes,
Yeah.
that one too. It happens to the best of us.
Although, absolutely. The mystery purchase. You black out for a second and wake up with a scented candle and a bag of pretzels.
It's so true. And usually I'm standing there staring at the total on the register and I'm thinking, what is wrong with me? Why do I have zero self-control? But looking at the research we've got today, I probably shouldn't beat myself up about it, right?
Not at all. That reaction, that feeling of personal failure is actually part of the design. What you've just described isn't a failure of willpower. You have fallen victim to something called choice architecture.
Choice architecture. Okay, that sounds delightfully sinister.
It does, doesn't it?
Like a villain's major at a university for evil geniuses or something.
It sounds impactful because, well, it is. The source material we're looking into today really revolves around this concept, famously popularized by the behavioral economists Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein.
Right, and it's often called nudge theory.
That's the one.
So what's the elevator pitch for nudge theory? Because nudge sounds so gentle, but the results you're describing sound really powerful.
Well, the core premise is that we scarcely realize how much our environment dictates our spontaneous decisions. We like to think we're these, rational actors weighing pros and cons for every cracker we buy. But in reality, we're just reacting to context, the environment.
So the environment is engineered. The store isn't just a warehouse. It's a map designed to lead you somewhere.
Precisely. Authorities, corporations, designers, they all make subtle changes to how choices are presented to us. And those subtle changes can reach about massive shifts in human behavior.
Okay, so our mission today is to pull back that curtain.
Sure.
We want to explore how these architects manipulate our world to influence what we do.
And more importantly,
how we can catch on to these tricks so we aren't just, puppets on a string.
that's the goal. And to really understand the mechanism, we have to start with a term that Thaler and Sunstein use, which sounds like a complete contradiction in terms.
Right.
It's libertarian paternalism.
Libertarian paternalism. Okay, yeah. Those two words feel like they should be fighting each other in a boxing ring.
They do seem at odds, don't they? Libertarian implies absolute freedom of choice. You do you, no interference. You want to eat a stick of butter for dinner, the government shouldn't stop you.
Go for it.
But paternalism implies a sort of fatherly figure guiding you, claiming to know what's best for you.
It's the strict parent saying, eat your vegetables, versus the cool aunt saying, eat whatever you want, sweetie.
Yeah.
How do they possibly fit together?
Thaler and Sunstein argue that because humans are inherently biased, and let's be honest, often lazy thinkers.
I mean, I feel seen.
We all are. They call us cognitive misers, which is the technical term. Because we're like that, we need help, but we don't like being forced. So this concept boils down to a simple idea, preserving your freedom to choose.
Okay, so you can still buy the junk food.
You can still buy the junk food or smoke the cigarette, but the system is gently pushing or nudging you toward an outcome that is arguably better for you.
Guidance without force. Kind of like a GPS.
That's a perfect analogy. A GPS suggests the best route. It nudges you to turn left here to avoid traffic because it knows that's the most efficient path.
But it won't lock the steering wheel.
Exactly. If you really want to drive off a cliff or take the scenic route that adds 3 hours to your trip, the GPS isn't going to stop you. You're still the driver. It just strongly suggests the better option.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's see this in action. Let's look into the physical world first. Going back to my failed milk run.
The scene of the crime.
The scene of the crime. Why is the milk always, and I mean always, at the very back of the store? Is it just to get my steps in?
Well, that's a nice side effect, but no. It is a very calculated move. You could call it layout engineering. Retail designers know that milk is an essential, a destination item.
Right. Everyone needs it.
Almost everyone. So by placing it at the very back, they force you to navigate the entire landscape of the store. To reach the essentials, you have to pass through all these aisles of high-margin items.
The gauntlet of temptation. You have to survive the journey to the dairy section.
Correct. You walk past the luxury chocolates, the seasonal decorations, the new chips with the packaging that just screams, "Buy me!"
Uh-huh.
The goal isn't just to make you walk, it's to increase the probability that you will stumble upon something you didn't know you wanted.
And that's where the scented detergent comes in.
Yeah.
I didn't know I needed my clothes to smell like a Hawaiian breeze until I walked past the display and the smell literally hit me.
Exactly. And notice where those high-margin items are placed.
Oh yeah, eye level.
Always at eye level. In the industry, they say eye level is buy level. This is a deliberate attempt to play down the cheaper alternative.
So they're hiding the good deals.
Not hiding, just making them less convenient. If you want the generic store brand or the value pack, you usually have to look way up high or crouch way down low.
They make you work for the savings. Physical friction.
That's the term. They do. They are leveraging physical friction to influence your choice. If you have to physically bend down, your brain, which wants to conserve energy because it's biologically wired to be efficient, just says, hey, just grab the one right in front of me.
That is wild. It's exploiting our own biology against our wallet.
In a nutshell, yes.
But it's not just about where things are on a shelf, right?
Yeah.
The sources mention something that's even more powerful.
Yes.
The default option.
Yes. If we are ranking tools in the Choice Architect's toolkit, the default option is the nuclear weapon. It is the single most effective way to change behavior by a huge margin.
That sounds incredibly dramatic. So how does it work?
It works by relying on a simple human truth.
Right.
We have a massive bias toward the status quo.
We're lazy.
We're efficient, but yes, effectively lazy when it comes to decision fatigue. We tend to just stick with whatever is already selected for us because changing it requires effort. We call it the path of least resistance.
Makes sense.
The most famous case study here, which is cited in our source text, is organ donation. This is the absolute gold standard example of nudge theory.
Oh, this is a classic comparison. This is the Austria versus Germany thing, right?
Exactly. So if you look at countries with an opt-in system like Germany used to be, that means you are not a donor unless you actively sign a form or check a box to say, yes, I want to be a donor.
Right. You have to take an action.
You have to take an action. And in those countries, participation rates are relatively low. We're talking, what, 12 to 15%?
Wow, that's it.
That's it. And this happens even in countries where public support for organ donation is incredibly high, like over 80 or 90%.
So people want to donate, in theory, but they just don't sign up.
They just don't get around to checking the box. It feels like paperwork. It forces you to confront your own mortality for a second, which isn't fun, so you just put it off. You say, I'll do it later.
And later never comes.
Later never comes. Now, contrast that with opt-out countries, like Austria. In these places, the government just says, by default, you are a donor unless you specifically tell us otherwise.
So the default is flipped. And the result?
The result, participation rates are nearly 100%, often over 99%.
That is a staggering difference. It's unbelievable.
Isn't it?
And it's not because Austrians are morally superior or more generous than Germans. Culturally, they're very similar. They're neighbors.
No, not at all. It's simply because the default was different. The architects of that policy, they utilized human inertia to carry out a massive social good. They made doing nothing the right thing to do.
That's incredibly powerful. You can literally save thousands of lives just by changing the wording on a form. But, I don't know, it also feels a little bit sneaky.
It does walk a fine line. It's beneficial, for sure. But it shows just how malleable we are. And if you think the physical world is manipulative, just wait until we look at the digital landscape.
Yeah, the outline calls this the digital frontier. And the source says the stakes here have been ratcheted up.
Ratcheted up is the perfect phrasal verb there. It implies a mechanical tightening, an increase in pressure or intensity. It's not a gentle slope. It's a click, click, click of increasing control.
So what's the difference?
In the physical store, friction like having to walk to the back of the store is used to manage you. In the digital world, they can remove friction entirely. They grease the slide so you move faster and further than you ever intended to.
You're talking about things like autoplay.
The ultimate digital nudge. Think about Netflix or YouTube. You finish an episode of a show you're binging, the credits roll. You might be thinking, okay, it's late, I should probably go to bed, I have work tomorrow. But before you can even fully form that thought, what happens?
The countdown starts. 5, 4, 3, and boom, the next episode is playing before you can even reach for the remote.
Exactly. The platform has made the decision for you. In the old days of television, or even with DVDs, you had to actively choose to continue.
Right, there was a natural stopping point.
The stopping rule was built in. The show ended, the screen went black or to static. Now the stopping rule is gone. Doing nothing becomes the path to more consumption. You don't have to choose to watch, you have to choose not to.
And that requires effort. You have to find the remote, hit pause, exit the app. It's just easier to let it ride.
And that is by design. Reed Hastings, the CEO of Netflix, once famously said his biggest competitor isn't HBO or Disney.
Who with it?
It's sleep.
That is terrifying. It's literally a battle for our consciousness.
It is, but it goes deeper than just keeping you watching. We have to talk about algorithms.
The invisible editors of our reality.
That's a good way to put it. Essentially, algorithms are designed to sift through these enormous mountains of data about your behavior.
Everything I do online.
Everything. They know what you click, how long you hover over an image, what you share, what you scroll past in a fraction of a second.
And they use that to show me more of what I like, which on the surface, that sounds helpful.
It can be. But the phrasing in the source material is really interesting here. They say the goal is to point out content that aligns with your biases.
Point out. That's a very gentle phrase, like a helpful friend saying, hey, I think you'd like this.
Exactly. But it's a friend who only shows you things they know you'll agree with, or things that will make you angry enough to engage.
Which leads to...
It effectively creates echo chambers. You stop seeing opposing viewpoints. Your worldview gets narrower and narrower, but it feels like the whole world agrees with you because that's all you see.
And here's the kicker. Should you find yourself scrolling for 3 hours, just feeling gross and unproductive afterwards?
Which we all have. The doom scroll.
Yeah, you just feel hollow.
Remember that the interface was built specifically to ensure you don't break away. These are called dark patterns in UI design.
Dark patterns. That sounds like something from Star Wars. The dark side of the interface.
It's a very apt name. It's a huge ethical gray area. It's things like the Roach Motel strategy.
Roach Motel. That is a disgusting name.
It's evocative, though, isn't it? The idea is you check in, but you can't check out.
I know this.
Think about how easy it is to subscribe to a service. It's one click. It's your Touch ID. You're done.
Right. Now try to cancel that same subscription.
Oh my gosh. You have to call a number, but only between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. on a Tuesday, or navigate through 6 different, are you sure, screens where they show you sad pictures of all the content you're about to lose.
They make you feel guilty for leaving.
Exactly. High friction to leave, zero friction to enter. And these companies frame this manipulation as enhancing user experience. They say, we're just making it easier for you to find what you love. But in reality, they're exploiting known cognitive vulnerabilities.
It's terrifying when you realize you're in a battle of wills with a supercomputer that knows your brain better than you do.
It is.
But there's another layer here, right? We aren't just influenced by apps and store layouts. We're also influenced by, well, by each other.
The social nudge, perhaps the most ancient nudge of all.
Humans are social animals. We hate being the odd one out.
Deeply. We are herd animals. We constantly look to others to determine what is appropriate behavior. This is called social proof.
Right.
There's a famous experiment mentioned in the text regarding hotel towels.
Oh, I love this one. It's such a simple tweak, but the results are just wild.
It is brilliant. So hotels want you to reuse your towels, right? It saves on laundry costs, it saves water, it's good for them and the environment.
And usually they put a little sign up that says something generic like, help save the environment, reuse your towel.
Which is nice, but maybe a little abstract. It's easy to ignore. It's like, the environment is big, my towel is small. What difference does it make?
It doesn't feel personal.
Right. And it works okay. But researchers tried changing the message to a social nudge. They put a sign in the bathroom that read, 75% of guests in this room reuse their towels.
In this room. Not just in this hotel, but this specific room. That's so specific.
It is. And that specificity is the key. And the result?
Yeah.
Guests were significantly more likely to reuse their towels compared to the standard Save the Planet sign.
Why? Because they don't want to be the one messy, wasteful person who stayed in room 302.
Exactly. It creates a hyper-localized social norm. It implies that people just like you in this exact situation behave this way. If the sign just said, "Citizens of the world, reuse towels," it's too distant to matter. But people in this room, that feels personal. It doesn't call for a change in the law. It doesn't give you a financial reward. It simply highlights the majority behavior to bring you around to the desired action.
Bring you around. I like that phrasing. It implies a gentle, gradual persuasion, like, come on, join the club. Everyone's doing it.
But we have to be really careful here. The text calls this a double-edged sword.
How so?
Peer pressure can be used to prop up harmful behaviors just as easily as good ones.
Prop up. I like that. Like you're supporting something that might otherwise collapse under its own weight.
Yes. Think about smoking in the mid-20th century, or binge drinking on college campuses. If you perceive that everyone is doing it, you are far more likely to do it yourself, even if you know it's dangerous.
Social proof acts as a validation mechanism. It normalizes the extreme.
It does. So if the nudge is transparent, like, hey, most people in your neighborhood recycle, you should too, that's one thing. But when the nudge is hidden, or when it manipulates us into something bad, that's where we hit the ethical wall.
And that is the core of the debate, really. Segment 5 of our outline is all about this ethical crossroads.
It's the big one.
It raises the huge question, is nudging actually ethical? Or is it just treating adults like children who can't be trusted to make their own decisions?
It is the fundamental tension of the entire theory. The critics argue that we should not put up with this kind of manipulation, no matter how well-intentioned.
Their stance is that if a government, for example, wants people to eat healthier, they should just lay out the facts.
Right. Here's the data on sugar. Sugar is bad for you. Don't eat it. Treat us like rational adults capable of processing information.
Exactly. Don't hide the junk food in the basement of the cafeteria or make it hard to find. Give people the information and let them choose freely.
The fear is a slippery slope toward greater control. If the government can nudge you to eat apples today, can they nudge you to vote a certain way tomorrow? Can they nudge you to dislike a certain group of people?
It's a valid fear. You don't want the architecture to become a cage.
You don't. But the proponents, the people who defend nudge theory, like Thaler and Sunstein, they have a pretty strong counter-argument, don't they?
They do. And this is the intellectual hook of the whole theory for me.
Go on.
They point out that there is no such thing as neutral design. Meaning that in that cafeteria example, the cafeteria must put the fruit somewhere. It has to go on a shelf. The checkout line has to exist in a certain place. You cannot design a building or a website or a form without making choices about the layout.
So there's no way to not influence people.
Exactly. If you put the fruit at the front, you're nudging people toward fruit. If you put the donuts at the front, you're nudging people toward donuts. You can't not nudge.
Precisely. The choice architecture exists whether you acknowledge it or not. There is no vacuum. So the argument from their side is, given that we have to design it somehow, why not design it to help people?
As long as the opt-out is easy.
That's the key. As long as you can still walk past the fruit and buy the donut if you really want it, your freedom remains intact. It's just about making the healthy choice the easy choice.
It's a really compelling point. We're being influenced anyway, so let's at least try to make the influence positive.
But here is where I think we need to be really, really careful. It is absolutely imperative that we stay vigilant about who is designing these architectures.
Because their goals might not be our goals.
Exactly. A government health department might nudge you for public health, which probably aligns with your personal goal of living longer. But a corporation nudges for profit. They want time on site. They want share of wallet. Their goals are not your goals.
And if we don't keep up with these developments,
if we don't stay informed about how these systems are evolving and how they work, we might find that our choices are no longer our own at all.
That is a chilling thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the trap. Let's talk about the escape. How do we break the spell?
The good news is the source text offers some concrete defense strategies on how to stand up to these invisible influences.
And the first step is basically what we're doing right now.
Awareness. It's that simple and that profound. Once you catch on to the tricks, they lose a huge amount of their power. It's like seeing the magician hide the card up his sleeve. The magic is gone.
I want to kick off this deep dive with a picture, scenario from the research that, honestly, it hit a little too close to home for me.
Oh, this should be good.
Okay, so you walk into a supermarket, it's 6 o'clock, long day, you're tired, and you have one very, very specific mission.
Just one thing.
One thing, a carton of milk. That is it. You even have, a mental map of the store.
The classic in and out mission.
Exactly. Or At least that's the lie we tell ourselves.
Right.
Because fast forward 20 minutes, you're walking to your car, you have the milk, sure, but you're also clutching a bag of artisanal sea salt chips, a magazine you will absolutely never read, and a new laundry detergent because the bottle looked, I don't know, trustworthy.
And you're just standing there in the parking lot thinking, what just happened?
The eye blackout. Yeah, exactly.
It's such a universal experience. And, the first thing we do is blame ourselves. We think, I have zero willpower, or I'm just so impulsive.
A moral failing.
We treat it like a moral failing. But the research we're digging into today suggests your willpower is actually, it's probably fine.
Which is a huge relief for my ego, I have to say.
The reality is, you didn't just fail a test of character. You walked into a trap. Or, to use the more technical term from our sources, you walked into a highly engineered environment of choice architecture.
Choice architecture. It sounds almost Orwellian when you say it like that.
A little bit, yeah.
Like there's a blueprint for my brain.
In a way, there is. And that is exactly what we are unpacking in this deep dive. We're exploring nudge theory. It's the science of how our environment, the physical layout of a store, the interface of an app, dictates our decisions way more than our conscious minds realize.
So the mission here is to pull back the curtain on this silent architecture. To understand how authorities, corporations are designing the world around us to make choices for us.
And often without us having a clue that it's happening.
And we've got some heavy hitters in the source material work based on the research of Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein.
Right. These are basically the godfathers of behavioral economics. And to really get why you bought those chips, we have to start with the philosophy. They coined a term that, well, on the surface, it sounds like a complete contradiction.
Okay.
They call it libertarian paternalism.
Let's just pause there, because those two words, they usually sit on opposite sides of the room at a party.
They really do.
Libertarian implies total freedom, do whatever you want. Paternalism is, a parent figure, the state, telling you what's good for you.
No.
So how do you even reconcile those?
It does sound like a headache, doesn't it? But it's this delicate balance. The libertarian part means you always preserve the freedom to choose. You aren't banning junk food.
Okay, the opt-out is there.
The opt-out is always there, but the paternalism part argues that it's legitimate for these choice architects to try to influence people's behavior to make their lives longer, healthier, better.
So it's more like a guardrail than a fence.
That's a perfect way to put it. And the justification for that interference is what I found really interesting. It's not just we know better. It's based on this idea that humans are, well, fundamentally lazy thinkers.
Ouch. I mean, fair, but ouch.
Cognitive misers is the polite term psychologists use. Think about it this way. We have two systems of thinking. System 1 is fast, automatic, emotional.
Gut reaction.
Gut reaction. System 2 is slow, logical, calculating. And the research says we spend almost our entire lives in System 1.
Right, because if I had to logically analyze every single decision, from which toothpaste to buy to which foot to step with first, I'd be paralyzed. I'd never leave the house.
Exactly. System 2 is energy expensive. It's hard work. So we run on autopilot, we rely on mental shortcuts, heuristics, and choice architecture is just the practice of designing the environment to capitalize on those shortcuts.
So if I'm running on autopilot, the nudge is just gently steering the plane without me having to grab the yoke.
Precisely. And that brings us right back to your milk run. Let's talk about the physical trap of the supermarket. This is Choice Architecture 101.
Okay.
Have you ever really stopped to think about why the milk is located where it is?
It is always in the back corner, the absolute furthest point from the entrance. I was just assumed it was like refrigeration logistics or something.
That's a convenient excuse, but it's mainly a design choice. It's part of what's known as the Gruen effect. To get to the essentials, the milk, the eggs, you are forced to navigate a maze.
A labyrinth, yeah.
You have to walk past all the high-margin items, all the sensory triggers. Like, notice how the bakery smell is often pumped right near the entrance?
Oh, absolutely. It triggers a hunger response immediately. Even if I just ate, suddenly I need a croissant.
That is your System 1 brain just reacting to a sensory cue. The layout is an obstacle course designed to trip up your logical brain. You walk past luxury chocolates, seasonal decorations that create this sense of urgency.
So they are banking on the fact that the longer I'm in the store, the more my lazy brain is just going to grab something.
Yes. And it gets even more granular. Retail designers know that eye-level placement is prime real estate.
Right.
They save that spot for the brands with the highest profit margins. The cheaper, generic alternatives, they're usually way down low or way up high.
So you have to physically work to find them.
You do. which adds friction. And since you're a cognitive miser, you're probably just going to grab what's right there in front of you.
Because bending down suddenly feels like a monumental effort.
It's the path of least resistance. But shelving is just the tip of the iceberg. The sources highlight a concept that is so much more powerful than product placement. It's the default option.
This was the part of the research that really just
Yeah.
blew my mind. The idea that if you do nothing, you've still made a choice.
The default option is, you could argue, the nuclear weapon of choice architecture. It relies on the status quo bias. We have this massive inertia. We tend to just stick with whatever the current state is because changing it requires effort.
And the stakes here go way beyond peanut butter. The classic example in the materials is organ donation.
Yes, life or death.
This is literally life or death.
It's the gold standard example for a reason. When you look at the data, the difference between countries with an opt-in system versus an opt-out system is just staggering.
So let's clarify. Opt-in means I have to actively check a box to say, yes, I'm a donor.
Right.
Opt-out means I'm automatically a donor unless I check a box that says no.
Correct. Now, in opt-in countries like, say, Germany, or the U.S. participation rates hover around, what, 15 to 20%?
Even though surveys show most people support it in theory.
Exactly. But in opt-out countries like Austria or France, participation is often near 99%.
That is a massive gap. And it's not because Austrians are just better people than Germans. It's just the form design.
It is almost entirely the form design. The physical cost of checking a box is tiny, but psychologically it's a barrier. It requires a decision. It requires your system too to wake up. By changing the default, they are literally harnessing our laziness to save lives.
It just highlights the incredible power of the person who designed the form. They aren't forcing anyone. You can opt out.
But they know you probably won't.
And that's where the libertarian paternalism argument comes back in.
That's where it shines. They'd say, look, we're getting more organs, saving lives, and nobody lost their freedom.
Fair enough. It is hard to argue with saving lives. But, while that sounds great in a medical context, the place where this is happening most aggressively right now, it isn't in government offices. It's on our screens.
Oh, yeah.
The source material calls this the digital frontier, and frankly, it feels a lot more predatory.
It is. If supermarkets are the undergraduate level of choice architecture, Silicon Valley is the PhD program. The feedback loops are instant, and the data they have on us is just immense.
Let's talk about autoplay, the bane of my existence. I finish an episode of a show, and I have the thought I should go to sleep. But before that thought can even get to my hand, the next episode is already 5 seconds in.
That is a digital nudge designed to weaponize your inertia. Netflix, YouTube, TikTok, they've reversed the friction.
What do you mean?
Well, in the old days, you had to get up and change the tape. That was friction. You had to actively choose to continue. Now, the friction is on the act of stopping.
So they've made consumption the default.
And stopping is the active choice. Exactly. And they're fighting for your attention. Reed Hastings, the co-founder of Netflix, famously said his biggest competitor isn't HBO, it's sleep.
That is absolutely terrifying. We are competing with your biological need for rest.
It is, and it goes deeper. Think about social media algorithms. These are engines built to predict exactly what will trigger your System 1 brain. They're just trying to keep you scrolling.
Creating those echo chambers we hear about. So it's not just about keeping me online. It's about feeding me a version of reality I won't question.
Yes, because questioning takes cognitive effort. Agreeing is easy. And the source material uses a very specific term for these design techniques. They call them dark patterns.
Dark patterns. It sounds like something from a fantasy novel.
It does, but it's actually user interface design. It's very real. These are interfaces built specifically to trick you. Think about when you try to unsubscribe from a service.
Oh, it's a nightmare. Signing up is one click. Unsubscribing requires a password, a two-factor code, a survey asking why you're leaving.
And the button to actually cancel is tiny and gray, while the Keep My Subscription button is bright neon green.
Right.
That is a classic Roach Motel. Easy to get in, very hard to get out. It's a deliberate friction imbalance. Or what about confirm shaming?
Is that when the pop-up asks for your email and the no button says something like, no thanks, I hate saving money?
That's the one. It's using a tiny bit of social shame to nudge you. And companies will frame this as optimizing conversion. But really, it's just preying on our cognitive vulnerabilities.
Hiding the exit sign so you stay at the casino longer.
That is a perfect analogy. Casinos were the original pioneers of this. No clocks, no windows, confusing layouts. The digital world just put all that in your pocket.
So we have physical traps, we have digital traps. But there's another layer here that was really fascinating. The social nudge.
Right. We're social animals. It's fundamental. We are constantly looking to the herd to figure out what's appropriate behavior.
There's this deep-seated fear of being the outlier.
Exactly. And the source gave a great example of this that anyone who stayed in a hotel will recognize immediately.
The little sign in the bathroom about the towels.
The towel sign. So for years, hotels tried to get people to reuse towels. They used these big environmental appeals, save the planet, reuse your towel.
And it worked. Okay.
It worked okay, but then researchers just tweaked the message.
They changed the sign to say 75% of guests in this room reuse their towels.
And compliance just shot up.
It's so funny to me. Save the planet. Yeah, maybe later. Everyone else did it. Oh, well, I don't want to be the one weirdo who uses a fresh towel.
It creates this sense of peer pressure without anyone actually being there. It's social proof. It doesn't require a law or a fine. It just highlights the norm.
But the source also points out that this is a double-edged sword. Social proof is neutral.
Absolutely. It can be used to encourage recycling, which most of us would see as good, but it can just as easily prop up harmful behaviors. If an app tells you, people who bought this also bought this, that's social proof being used to upsell you.
Which brings us to the big, so what of the episode. We're at this ethical crossroads. Because when you look at all of this, it begs the question, is this helpful guidance? Or is it just manipulation?
And this is the core debate, and I think it's important to say there are strong, valid arguments on both sides. On one hand, you have the critics. They argue that this practice treats adults like children.
The paternalism problem again, it's kind of infantilizing.
Right. They believe that if a government wants people to eat healthier, just lay out the facts. Education, not manipulation. Give us the calorie counts and let us decide.
Don't use psychological tricks.
Exactly. They argue that respecting our autonomy means respecting our right to make bad choices.
Which I get. Nobody likes feeling like a puppet. Even if the puppet master has good intentions, it feels condescending.
However, the proponents, Thaler and Sunstein included, make a very pragmatic counter-argument. They say, there is no such a thing as neutral design.
Okay, walk me through that. Because that feels like the linchpin of their whole defense.
Think about that school cafeteria again. The manager has to put the fruit somewhere. It has to go on a shelf. It can be at the front or it can be at the back.
But it has to be somewhere.
There is no neutral architecture. By definition, they are making a choice about how it's presented. Even scattering it randomly is a choice for chaos.
So their argument is, since you have to design the layout anyway, why not design it in a way that benefits the students?
Exactly. If the fruit must go somewhere, it might as well be at the front.
So they're basically saying, we're influencing you whether we want to or not, so we might as well do it positively.
Yes. And they always emphasize that as long as the opt-out is easy, as long as you can still walk to the back and buy the candy bar, your freedom of choice is technically intact.
But I do feel like there's a slippery slope there. I mean, who gets to decide what positive is? Today it's eating fruit. Tomorrow, could it be nudging us toward a certain political view?
And that is the crucial point our source material drives home. It is imperative that we know who is designing these architectures and what their goals are. In the public sector, the goal is, theoretically public welfare.
Right.
In the private sector, supermarkets, apps, casinos, the goal is profit. Full stop. And if we don't keep up with this, we might find our choices aren't really our own anymore.
So how do we break the spell? If this whole architecture is silent and invisible, how do we fight back?
The first and most important step is just awareness. Honestly, it's what we're doing right now. We're moving this from your System 1 autopilot to your System 2 analytical brain.
So once you spot the trick, it loses its power.
A lot of its power, yes. Like when you're on a travel site and you see that banner flashing, only 2 rooms left, or 15 people are looking at this right now.
Panic response.
Exactly. Before, you might have felt that panic, that scarcity bias. But now you can look at it and say, that's a scarcity nudge. They're trying to rush me. Just naming it helps you resist.
It's like seeing the strings on the puppet.
Right. And the second practical step is what I like to call the pause. When you feel that sudden urge to buy something, to click next episode, just wait a second.
Introduce your own friction.
Yes. Force a reboot of your System 2. Ask yourself, am I choosing this or was I nudged? Did I actually want this brand of detergent or was it just sitting there at eye level?
And maybe set up your own choice architecture. I've started leaving my phone in the other room when I sleep. It adds friction to the morning doom scroll.
That is perfect. You are becoming the choice architect of your own life. You can use these tools on yourself. Put healthy food at eye level in your fridge. Turn off autoplay in your settings.
So the takeaway isn't that we need to go live in a cabin to avoid being nudged. It's that we need to recognize the game so we can play it on our own terms.
Well put. We can't escape choice architecture. It is the fabric of modern life. But we can learn to navigate it.
As we wrap up, I think the most powerful thought from the research is this. The most important nudge is actually the one you give yourself toward mindfulness.
Couldn't have said it better.
Thank you for listening to this deep dive into the silent architecture of choice. Hopefully the next time you walk into a supermarket for milk, you'll actually leave with just the milk.
But if you come out with a magazine, at least now you'll know why.
And knowing is half the battle. So I was walking through the city the other day, and I was looking up at these massive brutalist government buildings.
Oh, I know the ones, just walls of concrete.
Exactly, acres of it.
Yeah.
And it just struck me how much physical architecture really dictates our behavior. The walls tell you where to walk, the doors where to enter.
It's a control system.
It's a control system made of brick and mortar, yeah.
It is. It's sort of the original user interface. But, if we're being honest, that kind of physical architecture it's almost secondary now.
How so?
Well, the walls that actually control our lives in the 21st century aren't made of concrete anymore. They're made of code and psychological triggers.
Invisible architecture, that's the core concept we're really digging into today.
It is. And the sources we've looked at for this deep dive, they suggest something. Well, something pretty unsettling.
That this invisible architecture is actually far more restrictive than any building.
Because you can't leave. You can leave a building. You can't just step outside the digital environment that, that surrounds us constantly.
Right.
So I think our mission for today is to really analyze what the text calls the puppet master within. We need to look at how these digital algorithms and, frankly, dark psychology overlap with our own cognitive flaws.
To answer that terrifying question, do we actually choose what we do?
Or is it being chosen for us?
And I think we need to be clear right from the start. We're not talking about, conspiracy theories. There isn't some guy in a dark room pulling levers.
No, not at all. It's much more impersonal. We're talking about automated systems. And they're designed for one very specific outcome.
Engagement.
Engagement. Retention. An architect builds a house for shelter, maybe for beauty. The digital architect, the algorithm, builds your reality just to keep you looking. It doesn't care if the information is true.
But it only cares if you watch.
Exactly.
So let's look at the blueprint then. The text says the main builder is the algorithm. But that's a word we all use, and I feel like most people have a really fuzzy idea of what it actually is.
We treat it like magic. It's not magic. It's a prediction engine. I think that's the key takeaway from the first section of our research.
A prediction engine. So it's guessing what I'm going to do next.
It's guessing what you want to see next. And it's analyzing, trillions of data points to do it, not just what you explicitly like or share.
It's the other stuff, the implicit signals.
Exactly. How many milliseconds did you hover over that image before you scrolled on? Did you stop on the political post, or did you just fly right by? It's building this high-fidelity model of your psychology.
A model that's probably more accurate than my own self-perception.
Oh, often it is. It knows you're feeling anxious before you've even admitted it to yourself, and it uses that knowledge to keep you on the platform.
Which leads us to that huge structural feature everyone talks about, the echo chamber.
Mm-hmm.
And we usually frame it in political terms, blue feed versus red feed. But the sources say it's a much deeper mechanism.
It's about identity reinforcement. Think about the feedback loop. The algorithm sees you engage with content that, say, suggests the world is getting more dangerous.
Okay.
It could show you crime statistics that suggest the opposite to give you a balanced view.
But that would create cognitive dissonance. It's friction.
And in the attention economy, friction is the enemy. It kills engagement. So instead, the machine says, "Oh, you liked that little bit of fear. Here are 500 more reasons to be afraid."
So my digital world just becomes a mirror.
A perfect mirror. It reflects your existing beliefs back at you, making them stronger and stronger, and it shields you from any dissent.
It's the illusion of choice. The text had a great analogy, like a restaurant menu that only lists things you've already eaten and liked before.
Right, and you're sitting there thinking, wow, look at all these options. I am freely choosing this burger.
But you're not.
You're not. You're picking from a pre-filtered list designed to make sure you keep eating. The chef isn't cooking for your health, he's cooking for your addiction.
Okay, so we've got this external force, the algorithm, building these invisible walls around us. But this is where the research gets really interesting to me. Because if it were just the machine, maybe we could outsmart it.
You'd think so.
We could just use our big, rational human brains and say, nope, not playing.
Ideally, yes, but we can't. And that's because of our internal limitations. This is where we have to talk about the exhausted mind and decision fatigue.
This part of the reading really hit home for me. We tend to think of willpower as like a character trait. You're either disciplined or you're lazy.
Right. But the science shows that willpower is actually, it's a fuel tank. It's a finite biological resource. In psychology, they call it ego depletion.
And every single choice we make drains that tank a little bit.
Everyone, from what socks should I wear to how do I word this really difficult email, each one of those little micro decisions burns a unit of fuel.
And we make thousands of them a day.
Tens of thousands. So by the time you get to the evening, that tank is empty. The source material cited this fascinating study with parole judges.
Oh, is this the one with the roller coaster graph?
That's the one. They analyzed over 1,000 parole rulings, and they found that early in the morning, a prisoner's chance of getting parole was around 65%.
Okay, pretty good odds.
But as the morning wore on, that number just dropped and dropped until it hit almost zero right before lunch.
That's terrifying. It means justice depends on your blood sugar.
And then, after lunch, after they refueled, the rate jumped right back up to 65% and started the same decline all over again.
So when the brain is tired, it just defaults to the status quo. For a judge, that's deny parole because it's the easier, safer choice.
It's the path of least resistance. And that brings us to what the text calls the 11:00 p.m. scroll.
The bane of my existence. You're in bed, you know you should be asleep, but you're just mindlessly scrolling or buying some gadget you absolutely do not need.
And we blame ourselves. We say, I have no discipline. But the reality is your executive function, the CEO of your brain, has clocked out for the day. It's offline.
So the platforms, they know this. They know where defenses are down at night.
They are capitalizing on your biological downtime. They know you're more likely to click buy when you literally lack the mental energy to say no.
You know, the text brought up a really famous example of people who sort of instinctively understood this.
Oh, the uniform strategy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs with the black turtleneck, Mark Zuckerberg with the gray t-shirt.
Or Barack Obama, who famously only ever wore blue or gray suits.
And I always just thought that was branding, you know?
Yeah.
Like creating an iconic cartoon character of yourself.
A personal logo, yeah.
But the reading says no, it was a defense mechanism against this very thing.
It's tactical. They understood that their decision-making fuel was their most precious resource. If they waste it in the morning agonizing over, does this shirt match these pants?
They have less fuel for the decisions that actually matter.
Exactly. So by automating the wardrobe, they preserve their energy. It's about reducing friction. In a world with infinite choice, the most radical thing you can do is limit your own options.
Build your own walls so the invisible architecture doesn't have to.
Exactly. You're protecting your executive function.
Okay, but let's say I do all that. I wear a uniform, I eat the same lunch, it's 9 a.m., my tank is full. Am I safe then?
Unfortunately, no, because even a fully charged brain has bugs in its software.
And that brings us to the next section, cognitive biases.
Right. And these aren't just random mistakes. These are systematic, predictable glitches in how we think. We're running on Paleolithic software in a digital age.
And the invisible architecture is designed to exploit those glitches.
Perfectly.
So let's talk about some of the big ones. The first one that jumped out was the anchoring effect.
Anchoring. This is the bread and butter of e-commerce.
Yeah.
The human brain is actually terrible at figuring out the real value of something.
We need a reference point.
We need an anchor. So you go to a website, you see a watch, and the first thing you see is $1,000 crossed out. That is the anchor.
And my brain immediately sets $1,000 as the value of that watch.
Instantly. And then right next to it, limited time only, $200. And what happens in your brain?
Dopamine. I feel like I'm not spending $200. I'm saving $800.
Yes. Even if the watch only costs $10 to make, you're not evaluating the product anymore. You're evaluating the deal. It's a complete hack of your critical thinking.
And that ties right into the next bug, which feels even more manipulative, scarcity.
This is where we get into what researchers call dark psychology. You're booking a hotel, and a red notification pops up.
Only 2 rooms left at this price.
And you feel that little jolt of anxiety.
Physical anxiety.
That's a biological response. It triggers loss aversion. Psychologically, the pain of losing something is twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining it.
So my brain's threat center just lights up.
It's the fight or flight response. Your brain treats missing out on this deal with the same chemical urgency as losing a food source. The logic center just shuts down.
And I buy the ticket out of fear, not out of need.
It's wild to think that a single line of code, which might not even be true, can trigger a survival mechanism that's millions of years old.
There was one more bias I really want to touch on because it explains so much about our news feeds. The availability heuristic.
This one is so crucial. The availability heuristic basically says we judge how likely something is to happen based on how easily we can remember an example of it.
So if it's memorable, we assume it's common.
Exactly. The classic example is shark attacks versus car accidents. Shark attacks are dramatic, they're terrifying, the media covers them like crazy. They are highly available in your memory.
So people are terrified of sharks.
Right. But the drive to the beach is statistically thousands of times more dangerous. But car crashes are mundane, so we ignore the risk.
So apply that to my social media feed. The algorithm pushes high emotion, dramatic, often negative stuff.
Because that's what gets engagement. So you see riots, public arguments, rare crimes.
And because those examples are so available in my mind, my brain tells me this is what the world is like now.
It completely skews your perception of reality. You start to believe the world is far more dangerous and polarized than it actually is.
Which, of course, loops right back to the echo chamber and confirmation bias.
It's a perfect self-reinforcing circle.
Okay, this is a pretty bleak picture. We have algorithms boxing us in, fatigue taking down our defenses, and biological bugs blinding us. It feels like we're bringing a knife to a nuclear war. Is there any way to fight back?
There is. The material doesn't just leave us in despair. It pivots to a solution called nudge theory.
This is from Thaler and Sunstein, right? The whole libertarian paternalism idea.
That's the one. It sounds a little dry, but the concept is brilliant. The idea is you can't eliminate the architecture. You can't live in a total void. But you can redesign the architecture to encourage better choices.
The classic example being the school cafeteria.
Exactly. If you want kids to eat healthier, you don't ban the brownies. That just makes them want them more. Instead, you put the apples and the salads at eye level, right at the start of the line. You put the junk food in a corner that's harder to reach.
You're altering the choice architecture. You're making the healthy choice the path of least resistance.
You're working with the lazy brain, not against it. You're using our biases for good.
So how do we apply that to the digital world? Because right now, my phone puts the brownies at eye level and hides the apples in the basement.
It does. Most apps use what we call sludge nudges that make it easy to sign up but almost impossible to cancel. But ethical design would flip that.
What would that actually look like, though?
Well, imagine instead of an infinite scroll that never ends, an app had a stopping rule. After 20 minutes, a pop-up appears. You've been here a while. Do you want to continue?
It breaks the trance.
It gives your executive function a chance to reboot. Or think about sharing news. Some platforms are trying this nudge that says, you haven't clicked the link. Do you want to read the article before you share it?
I've seen that. It's annoying for a second, but it does make you stop and think.
It introduces good friction. We've been told friction is bad, that everything should be seamless. But sometimes friction is the only thing standing between impulse and reason.
So the goal isn't to go live in the woods. It's to demand a choice architecture that actually serves the user, not just the platform.
We have to be the architects, not just the tenants.
Okay, so let's pull all this together. We're basically fighting a war on 3 fronts.
We are. First, you have the external algorithms, narrowing our reality for profit. Second, you have decision fatigue, our biological limit that weakens our defenses.
And third, the cognitive biases, the bugs in our own code that make us so easy to manipulate.
And awareness is the primary weapon against all 3.
Just knowing how it works is the first step.
It is. If you know about decision fatigue, maybe you don't make big financial choices after 9 p.m. If you know about anchoring, you learn to ignore the original price and just ask yourself, is this product actually worth $200 to me?
And maybe we start building our own friction, turning off notifications, setting app timers.
Anything that forces a pause. A pause is all your rational brain needs to come back online.
It makes me think of that phrase we use all the time, pay attention. We treat attention like it's free, but the phrase itself implies it's a currency.
That is the thought I'd want to leave everyone with. We live in an economy where human attention is the single most valuable commodity on Earth, more than oil, more than gold.
And the biggest companies in the world are built on mining it from us.
Exactly. So you have to start asking yourself, every time I stare at a screen, am I spending that currency on something that enriches my life?
Or is it just being pickpocketed from me by an invisible architect?
Are you the customer or are you the product? Once you pull back the curtain and you really see the strings, that's when you can start to answer that question for yourself.
That is a sobering but very necessary reality check. We'll be back next time with another deep dive. Until then, take a look at your own walls. See who built them. Thanks for listening.
Stay awake.